2019 Pedals and Effects Earthquaker devices. First video that we're doing is for the Swiss Things, and this is not a looper like a sampler looper. It is a looper that means you can create loops in your signal chain that are certain pedals that you want in and out of your signal chain. Basically,
that confused me for a long time when I was getting into like loop pedals. When you see something that says loop on it, because that's an effects loop.
Correct.
But then you just see the word, so I'm guessing most of the percentage of people that would be watching this video would know that, but I didn't know that for a lot of years, and I was like, whoa, loop pedal, what is it? That's a loop, but it's the effects loop.
Right. I mean, bass players tend to know this a lot because, man, probably starting back in the 80s, bass amp companies started putting effects loops in all amps because bass players always wanted their clean sound. So they would put their pedals in the effects loop and it would be outside the head. Well, you can blend it, and but it's basically so you can take it out, so you can always have your clean sound going from your bass into your head, and then when you want to kick on your loops, your pedals, you could kick it in and would put it into the loop.
My first real amp was a triple rectifier, which is silly, it's crazy saying that, speaking those words out loud, but it had an effects loop in it, and I remember at that point I had a lot of pedals in front of me, and I tried it once and I was like, it's not intuitive for me, but because at that point my brain was already had evolved to junk in front of me and having to dance around and do all sorts of things as opposed to using an effects loop.
I got you. So, I've used effects loop pedals before, like the Boss one. I used them a bunch in Mars Volta, and a lot of times I would use it to take noisy pedals out of the chain. So say this one, it's old school, it sounds great, but it is a tone sucker, and it's just gnarly. And I also, because of the construction, eventually I figured I would probably step on this too hard, and if you step on this too hard and you go through, you'll go through the circuit board. So I was like, once somebody told me that, I said, forget it, I'll just have it in a loop. So it was always on, and I would just step on the looper to bring it into the chain, and then it would already be on. And that you can do with this. So how I would do it is I would put it through the effects loop 1, and then I would just turn it on through here. So here it is. This would already be on, and then I would just kick it in the loop. So that's how I would use it for that situation.
All we've said so far is that it's an effects loop, but much like a Swiss Army knife, the Swiss Things is a whole bunch of different utility pedals in one.
See, we know that's what the name Swiss Things came from. And here's another thing, Swiss Army knife thing about it, is that it is an AB box, essentially. So
it's an ABY box.
ABY box. For me, I would use it as an AB box because a lot of times now, recently, last 3 years, I've been running 2 systems. So I run a system to the PA and I run a system to the bass amp, and I want them both on because a lot of these bass sounds that I'm getting don't have a lot of low end, but I'll use a sub pedal out, so they'll be on at both times. So B will have the sub pedal, A will be the main messed up weird sounding effect, and when you put those two together, it sounds massive and weird, as opposed to me trying to just do it through one source. So I'll use it as an A-B, but I'm going to use it as A and B both on. So I have one going to the house, which will be like the meat box or another sub pedal that I have. And then this will always be, running whatever weird effect combos that I have. And I can get rid of some of the other systems that I did because I'll have this.
So for anyone that doesn't understand what ABY box was, or if you're a little nerd who's never even heard that term before, it's basically a splitter that you could use 2 guitar amps once, or 2 outputs, right? So you would use this switch to go between output A and output B. So for instance, I usually run a high gain guitar amp with the Roland Jazz Chorus, but I always come out of my DL4, which has stereo outs. So it's always just getting both signals all the time. Sound guy always asks me, oh, so do you switch between the amps, or are they always both on? I'm like, well, it's out of the DL4, so there's no switching. It's always just on. But what you could do with an ABY switcher would be switch between the Roland or the high gain or whatever you want. And then the Y, in this case, the both button, is both of them on. So it would be like going out of a stereo out of a DL4 or something like that. So it is really helpful. Like you were saying, if you have different, you would just DI your B rig, right?
Right.
The meat box would go into a DI box.
Right.
as opposed to another guitar amp.
Right.
You could send it to any.
So I'm using it as a Y. I'm not going AB because that meat box is always on.
You have both signals on at the same time.
Yeah, and the meat box is always going to be on.
But you were saying, well, you'll show, but this is a lot more convenient for something like that because of what this tuner option has on it. So then there's this tuner. I've actually never seen this on like a utility box before. Maybe it exists, but you can just have your tuner plugged into this and turned on all the time. And that seems kind of crazy. Also, it's not intuitive to me because I don't use that. I'm used to clicking on a tuner, but you would use that in conjunction with this volume pedal option, which all you do is you plug in any expression pedal and into this guy, and it functions as a volume pedal because of tone suck.
Right, tone suck.
So
volume pedals supposedly tone suck. We didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But we'll believe Jamie and Earthquaker.
Boost, a 20 dB boost.
Nice.
Which actually is like nice and clean. It doesn't necessarily like crunch up the tone, which I think is cool.
The other thing, phase switch. So for you don't know, people who don't know, a lot of times when you run two outs and the volumes don't match, you'll get phase shifting. So what'll happen is all of a sudden your low end's gone because you have phase issues. And so you can sit there and just pop that and then it'll put them back in phase. So that is super, super helpful for anybody who runs two signals.
Now we will show some examples of how we would use the Swiss things.
So basically I'm going to show one really cool thing that we didn't talk about. So here we have my tuner. See, it's on. Boom, look at that, in tune. But you're like, well shit dude, you got to mute your shit. And I'm like, you're right, I do. So then what you do is you turn on loop 2, mute. If you don't have anything plugged in there, that's how you get the mute. You could do it with volume to get the volume out, the volume pedal. Bring that out if you have both, if you're using both loops. But if you're just using one loop, if you don't plug anything into loop 2, you can use loop 1, and then when you hit loop 2, look, silence, and the tuner is in effect. So there's that. Okay, so another example I wanted to show is that, so here's a pedal that doesn't have a foot switch. It's my trustworthy multi-vox that I found in Indianapolis, or outside of Indianapolis. Anyway, it's a chorus, stereo analog chorus, and vibrato. And I love vibrato, so we're on the vibrato section. But it is stereo out as well. So you could essentially hook this up if you get running 2 amps through the AB outs. You could use this as well to get the full stereo chorus effect. We're not doing that. What we're just doing is I'm going to show you what it sounds like. So. And then kick on this old dog. Awesome, right? So then you can also give a little boost. Without the boost. Boom. So there. Now I can actually use this effect that I bought years ago and have never used it because it doesn't have a foot switch. And I was like, what a headache. I'd always have to have it on or walk over to it to turn it on or all that bullshit. Nope. Swiss things brought this guy to life. So in Dr. Octagon, I did a lot of where I ran 2 signals. I'd run the meat box full time to the front of house, and then I'd tweak out my sounds, and it would, like a lot of sounds I'm getting don't have low end, but it doesn't matter if I'm running the meat box the whole time. So this, for example, is one of the sounds I would use where I'm using the Red Panda Bitmap, which is their bit crusher, and I'm using it kind of like a fuzz, and then that running at the same time with the meat box is its own unique sound. And then what I'm doing is using this, so like I've still got this guy plugged in, so it's like my vibrato pedal, and then I'm gonna kick on the sounds, and you'll see how they start. Once you start stacking them, that's when the real magic happens, and that's because you now have a Swiss Army knifing your insane sounds that you work so hard on to get going. So here is the bitmap. Right, so that's cool. All right, let's kick on a little bit of the chorus that we had in. I mean, a vibrato that we had in earlier. Right, so then that's cool. So then now, the whole time I've been playing, the meat box has been in conjunction with that sound. So. Okay, cool. So how is that running? Basically, this is still loop 1, bitmap, loop 2, and then the meat box is the Y of the ABY. So then that's how you can use it. So you could use 2 speaker cabinet amp set situations, or you could just run it like I do, front of house, meat box, because really you're going to just blow up anything with the meat box. But that is a way that I would use the Swiss things.
All right, so I'm quite used to having to turn on multiple pedals on a dime. I've been doing it for a very long time now. That's not like a weird flex, but okay, that's just like, it sucks. That's what I've been doing. I never got into it. You know, I pulled this out. This is funny. I got this on Craigslist in a lot of like 4 pedals for probably under $20. So this is the old kind, right? Where it's got the send and return and then your amp and guitar input. So like, look at the size of this. It's kind of funny, right? It's half of this whole fucking box, and this is how you used to have to do it, or with any of your things that you have down there. But anyways, I've had the option to do it. I was just never super interested in it because I'm like, whatever, like I'm fine. And my whole thing is if I need to turn on the Bit Commander and the Rainbow Machine at the same time on the same downbeat, I don't mind if they're like spread far apart, or if I have to do the pedal dance and I fuck up and oh my god, what's gonna happen? I missed the pedal by a 20th of a second. What are everyone gonna think of me? I got bigger fish to fry. You know what I'm saying? But having the option to have them both at the same time is very cool and very convenient. So anyways, for loop 1, I got the Bit Commander going into the Rainbow Machine, which I talk about all the time. Any like kind of sub synthy sounds just come to life with the Rainbow Machine. You set it a little off, the pitch a little off noon, and it just kind of does this stereo spread effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have both those on, just waiting for me to crank on loop 1. Then loop 2, I've got the afterneath, which is just kind of like, you know what I mean, going to hang on to everything for a while. If you remember, like, I don't know, a couple years ago, this came out, right? And I was doing this trick with the transmitter where I was just kind of bouncing in and out of like the saved reverb state because it would kind of just like self-oscillating on itself. And that was easy because it has the flexi switch technology. Not all pedals have this really smooth switching. A lot of the old ones, every old Earthquaker.
Ow, 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 ow,
it sucks, dude. It's like, I mean, it doesn't.
It's old school.
It's old school. Everything that like it gets antiquated, and guess what? In 50 years, dudes are gonna be like, "Oh my god, can you remember in 2018 when you had to fucking click the thing like that?" So, anyways, so what's cool about the Swiss things is it's all the flexi switch technology. So if you have pedals that you want to be able to go in and out of or whatever, you can just leave them running and they can be oscillating in the background. Whatever. There you go. So I've also got the volume pedal dealy set up. This is just a standard Dunlop mini expression pedal that you just go into the volume pedal little guy there, and then you're good. So check it out. Just classic. Pretty cool. So if I were to leave my volume up and turn on loop 1, oh, here it comes. Here comes the drum part. I gotta hit it on the downbeat, and I need the Rainbow Machine and the Bit Commander on at the same time. Then then you want to add some afterneath to the mix. Then, okay, so when I'm talking about some self-oscillating shit, like the Rainbow Machine, that's how you'd have to do it before, right? Like if you wanted this sound, let's see. Now you can just leave that running, come in and out of it like this. Very, very Swiss.
Swiss things.
I've been to Switzerland. That is Swiss.